Welcome to the Sci-Fi Diner podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Scott Herzog.
And good evening, I am Miles P. McLaughlin.
I'm Chrissy Raffensperger.
And I'm Dave Sellers.
And we with us tonight, Tyler. Tyler, welcome back to the podcast.
Hey, thank you. Appreciate being back.
Yeah, God likes it too. Do you hear all that thunder out there?
I did, yeah.
God's very approving of this. Thor or whoever. But no. So if you don't recall, if you don't remember, Tyler, you need to go back and listen to the episode where we argued whether Star Wars should be rebooted or not.
The thunder was a rumbling
of favorite episodes, and
thunder's a rumbling of doom impending with an.
Yeah. So, but yeah. So welcome back to the podcast, Tyler. It's good to have you back on.
Thank you. I'm glad to be back.
It's good to see you, bud.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, all right. Well, so we're just coming off the weekend, actually 2 weekends ago, I guess it was now, that we had a shore leave for the first time in Lancaster County. For those of you tuning in that may not be familiar with shore leave, of course, is a convention that's been running for 40 plus years. It's a fan-run convention. And so it's not like Creation. The Creation conventions are the Star Trek conventions that are huge. But they bring in some pretty stellar guests. And for about 40 some odd years, it was down in Maryland. And the hotel that they had it at for those 40 plus years closed. And they were saying, okay, crap. And they closed unexpectedly. And so late last fall, they were like, okay, we got to find a venue. And they said, why not do it in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania? And so they went to the Wyndham Resort there on Route 30, right across from Dutch Wonderland, for those of you familiar with the Lancaster area. And that's where we had our shore leave for the first time ever. So, yeah. So, guys, gals, what did you think of the new venue, the new place that they had it at? And Tyler, I welcome you to jump in if you have any questions about shore leave or anything. So,
Got it.
I loved it. I mean, aside from the fact that it was so close to the house, where I'm able to actually go all 3 days and not have to stay overnight, was really cool. The venue itself, like at the old Delta Hotel, like I always felt like everybody was crammed pretty tight. Like all their stuff was very centralized there. You're shoulder to shoulder with people, especially when you're waiting in lines and trying to get through like the main section where all the guests are at, have tables and everything like that. It was very tight. This one, the vendor room was huge. Massively huge. It was awesome. Yeah. The guests had their own little sectioned off kind of area where lines never got too crowded. It was really nice like that. The panel rooms were plenty huge and all over the place. And the main room, actually, I liked a little bit more. It was bigger maybe than the ones we had down at the Delta, but the way the seating was arranged, there wasn't a bad seat. Like you got a good view of the stage. It was elevated. It was inclined, elevated, that you could see like a theater.
Yeah, it was like stadium seating.
Yeah. I loved it. I really hope it continues to come back there. I enjoyed it. I know there were some people who had some issues in the hotel itself, but what are you gonna do?
Yeah, they had an elevator break on Friday.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what that's like or anything. I mean, you deal with that all the time.
That never happens at Penn Manor.
No, never happens there. It stinks. I mean, but what are you going to do? The hotel can't prevent that. I mean, it's an elevator.
Miles, why don't you go ahead? Give us your perspective. This was, what was it like for you? What did you think of it in the new venue and some of your thoughts on that?
I like the new venue. I'm going to echo a lot of what Dave said. I think I heard somebody say this hotel can hold 1,000 more people than the old Delta could, and so you were on top of each other. I thought I like the fact that as far as restaurant facilities, they had if you just wanted fast food like pizza or burgers or chicken strips, you get that. They had a Starbucks that had, if you want sandwiches or whatever. We didn't try out the restaurant. I don't know what the restaurant was like, but so they had options, and also the place was close to other restaurants. You didn't have to go far to go eat. So I didn't stay at the hotel. Fortunately, Scott put me up for the 2 nights. So, and it's about 20 minutes away, give or take. That was nice. I thought the hotel staff tried to take care of the guests. I saw a situation where an older lady was her sugar her sugar level dropped real low, and they took her to get her some food where we were getting food, and she was apologetic. I said, hey, don't worry about it. Let's take care of you, and we don't want you getting more sick. So so the hotel staff, I didn't mind the hotel staff butting in front of me to help take care of this lady and making sure she was okay. I like the stage. I don't think, like, there was room to there was just plenty of room. You felt you had plenty of room between you. You were on top of people. I enjoyed I enjoyed meeting up with old friends, our author friends, Michael Jan Friedman, Dayton Ward, making some new author friends, Scott Pearson. I'll have to get him on the show sometime, talk about his writing career. I got to meet Todd Stashwick. I loved him as Captain Shaw. I loved him as Deacon in 12 Monkeys. He's just a cool dude. He's just a super cool dude. And I got to, I had my Captain Shaw shirt, and he loved it. And he took a picture of the front and back, and he said he was amazed by some of the fan art homage to him, and he posted it on his Facebook page. So I made it on his Facebook page. So that was fun. I got a hug from Terrell Rothery for just making a small donation when they were doing a collection. So that was cool.
Yeah.
What else?
Well, so we'll get to some highlights here in a second. So if you have more, I want to hear from Chrissy and her thoughts about shore leave in general and just being there and being at the Wyndham. It was like in our backyard here. Chrissy, can you share with us some of your thoughts about the venue, about being at shore leave? First, maybe second time that it's been there that you've been at shore leave.
Well, I mean, just to echo what Dave and Miles have been saying, like, I did like the venue better than the previous one because I was there. I don't know how much people heard or don't heard from my terrible connection with the storm. Was I was down at the same hotel for a different convention, and I felt like that one was a little bit more, I would say, like, crowded, packed in, whereas this was more spread out. So I definitely appreciated the space that we had. The food was, I mean, okay. I do think that you could tell that the hotel was suffering from some understaffing, because I think we observed on Sunday that the same two girls, which we saw, like, the whole weekend for hours and hours, were always the ones there serving the food. So I just want to say, like, those two ladies were absolute troopers. And I really appreciated that the crowd was very generous towards them, because everyone could be like, oh, these poor girls have been working their tails off for us all weekend. And so if the line took a little bit long to serve the food, it's not like anyone, I never heard people grumbling or complaining. But I don't think that understaffing is something that is going to be solved easily. I mean, the investors could just, not get as much money, and the hotels could just pay their people a little bit more, but I won't get into my political tirade about that. But the people who immediately are above them and can solve the problem are not able to necessarily solve the problem. That would have to be a larger corporate issue.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but I really liked the large auditorium because, like David and Miles were saying, there really wasn't a bad seat. You could see very clearly because of the way that the steps kind of worked their way up. You weren't ever worrying about, if a tall person sat in front of you and all of a sudden you can't see, and even the people coming up to ask the questions, I don't feel like we're blocking people's views, which is really nice. And it had a good sound, so you could really hear what was going on. I felt that the rooms were conducive to each individual crowd to generate conversation without being too spread out. So it just, overall, I thought it was a very good venue. And I liked it better than the previous one, which isn't just because it's very conveniently located.
The other good thing was for photo ops. Back at the old one, you used to get into the queue to get up for your photo ops or your autograph or your official autograph sessions or whatever, and you'd wrap outside through this courtyard. So in the middle of July, that gets a little warm, sweaty in there before you're getting up to get your photo op that you paid a ton of money for. This one, they had it streamlined beyond anything I've ever seen.
I was going to ask how the queues went with the setup, because it seemed like, especially down the center, coming off the center hallway, that they were kind of in that space where I wasn't sure how the lines would go. And then in the back corner, I wasn't quite certain. So I'm glad to hear that the lines actually, they were able to manage the amount of people.
Yeah, they did the photo ops up there off in the other one of their little cafe area with a couple of dining rooms they had torn down past just off to the right of the registration tables back in the lobby there. And oh yeah, they had things queued up. They didn't even have to put out like the ribbon, I call them Hershey Park stanchions, where you're snaking through a line or anything like that. I mean, it was, and they went quick, and they were on time as long as the guests were on time. But it moved very, very smoothly. I heard a lot of people in line when I was waiting for mine talking about how smooth that all went, and even the people who were volunteering there were just like, "Yeah, this is great." So another big plus.
Yeah, I will say I heard consistently from people saying that the temperature control was a lot better throughout the venue than the other place. Because some people we didn't know whether we were going to be roasting or freezing, and which you wouldn't think is such a big deal, but I mean, temperature control can really, make or break an experience when you, Dave saying, I paid lots of money to be in this photo op, and now I'm going to be like a sweaty, disgusting mess when I get up to this celebrity and feel just embarrassed to even get near them because I smell, because I'm now sweaty and I'm in a costume that, one should not be wearing in the middle of July. So, I think overall, just, points on the space, the temperatures, the ability to hear people, conducive for conversations. I think the only thing that I would probably have complained a little bit about was I feel like there could have been maybe a little bit more food options, but I'm wondering if that is primarily because they were clearly understaffed, so they were limiting the food and the food options because of the staffing. Because there's no way that they would have had those two girls doing that all weekend long if they could have avoided it.
I think they were relying a little bit on the bar, and they do have a restaurant there as well. But quite honestly, the convenience of all the eateries around the place. Now, there were some near the Delta Hotel in Maryland where they had shore leave, but the convenience of this, just being on Route 30, they really didn't need more food I hear what you're saying, but I think that they certainly didn't need as much of the food options. Right. But
no.
Yeah. Well, so that was it. The dealer's room, it was fantastic, as we talked about.
Loved it.
Were there, let's just take, we can go around just real quickly, and then we can move on to looking at some of the news about the same time dropping out of Comic-Con that we want to talk about. What were like one or two highlights from Shore Leave this year for you that you had, and then we'll go from there. And Chrissy, let's start with you.
I really liked getting my teddy bear from Santa Claus. That was absolutely fantastic. There was, it, I had, I had seen this guy like walking around dressed as Santa Claus, and I was like, oh, it's Christmas in July. So I walked up to him and I was like, so are you handing out like presents or coal? And he was like, presents, do you want one? I was like, yes, I want a present from Santa Claus because I'm actually 5 years old. So got it. And then Dave went to take a picture and he stone faced. I had no idea this was going on in the background. But Todd actually came and photobombed me while I was getting a picture with Santa Claus. So that was fun.
It's pretty fantastic. You have to drop it in the chat so Tyler can see it. But that was one of my favorite pictures from that.
Yes, yes. And if you want to see it, I believe it is on our Instagram page.
That doesn't work. It's kind of blacking out their files. But.
Oh, let me see if I can pull it up.
But anyways, so that was there. No, still not working, Miles.
You can find it at SciFi Diner Podcast on Instagram.
There you go.
Oh,
shameless plug.
All right, yeah, I did think that moment was pretty tight.
Yeah,
so.
It's good stuff.
Yes, and then I was greatly amused. On Saturday morning, I got there. I grabbed myself a Starbucks. I walked up to General Martok and I was saying hello, and he just looks up and he goes, well, where can I buy one of these? So I was like, good morning to you, sir. So,
that dude ran borderline inappropriate all weekend long, and he just legend. Yeah. Love the man.
Listen, he's a Klingon general. He can be. That's just what they do.
like even I think I spent more time talking to him that weekend, whether it was at his table or sitting around like that, than I think I had talked to even you guys mostly during that whole weekend. Because once he got started, it was just story after story after story. And you get a taste of it if you look us up on YouTube at SciFi Diner Podcast. You can go back and see the J.G. Hertzler interview. Check it out. He's just a wealth of stories, and they're hilarious.
Yes, he was absolutely hysterical. I just loved that was like the first thing out of his mouth. I was like, borderline inappropriate, but I'll take the sideways compliment anyways. So those were probably my two highlights of that.
Miles, how about you? Two moments from Shorely that stuck out to you. I mean, you mentioned the, Todd Stash was taking a photo and putting it up, but other than that.
I had fun at the photo op with him, but I met a lady there. I just am a mutual fan of his and his work. Her name was Dina. That's another fun thing is just it's a very good chance you might make a new friend or friends when you go to these things. And when what Dave and Chris was saying, Martok was accessible for I think lots of people had conversations with him. He wasn't like, he was there on the floor the whole time. He was either at his table or just hanging out. You could just hang out with JG and shoot the breeze and just have him tell you stories. Other things, there's a cool Deep Space Nine panel that I really enjoyed. They had an author there who wrote the autobiography of Benjamin Sisko, and so I read his book already, but they were giving him a platform to promote his book. And so with J.G. Hertzler and this guy with his book, I mean, there was a lot of Deep Space Nine love going around. I do have to share, there was one thing I didn't really care for at Shore Leave this past year. And Scott, I have to hold you responsible for that. This idol show we went to Friday night.
It was one of Dave's favorite events, Universal Idol, where they were singing in other languages and anime theme songs. I'm
the one who punched out.
Dave was on his feet cheering the entire time. So
that sounds like Dave.
It does sound like Dave. It does. Universal Idol.
I
Who's your favorite?
can't believe I missed out on that.
I know.
Friday.
You would have loved it, Chrissy.
You
and,
didn't miss much, Chrissy.
we did it. It's not like we stayed not the whole time. We walked out after like 2 or 3 songs. So it wasn't like that we tortured you, but it was the best part of Dave's experience. So
was this like? Sorry.
Go
I
ahead.
guess next year I'll have to enter it. That's all there is to it.
That's right. That's right. We will support you, but then leave afterwards.
And I will sing. What is that song I hate? the
Fate
Fate
of the Heart.
Fate of the Heart,
Sing
yes.
just for you.
Yep.
Now,
So
you get
it's
more
like-
points if you sing it in Japanese.
Yeah. So
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Tyler.
Some
So they're like
Japanese.
languages. I thought I was imagining like Rage Against the Machine in Klingon or something.
That
but-
would be awesome.
So I think it would be right.
Yeah. I would have stayed for that. No, it
You
was.
know,
There was this young-
It was.
this
There's
young
Klingon
lady,
style.
Yeah.
you could do Klingon style. You'll get the crowd going. I mean,
I think so. I think some of it was the MC. Honestly, she was, and I get it. She was nervous. It was a fairly. I mean, we were. There might have been 15 people in the crowd, and it was this huge auditorium. And there's like 15 people in there, so I do feel bad for her. I'm sure she was nervous going in. It was the first year doing it. I'm sure it will improve more, but definitely not one of the highlights. And I'm sorry. I am sorry that I tortured you with that, Miles.
A great idea in theory. Like, if they can iron that out, that could be a really cool show.
You heard it. Universal Idol is cool, Dave said.
No, I said it could be a really cool show.
I can totally edit this to make it sound like he actually said
Well,
something.
thank God I have the raw video.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was a
Dave-
Fred Flintstone cosplayer performing.
Yeah.
Who also
Well,
turned out to be Santa Claus and gave Chrissy
you say
presents.
performing, but that's a very loose definition of what he
Being
was doing.
kind.
Mm-hmm.
God,
Yeah,
being
that was a
kind.
very loose definition. Dave, how about you? What were give me 1 or 2 highlights? for
So,
you.
honestly, J.G. Hertzler was probably one of the biggest highlights for me. Like I love that guy in the roles he played, and then hearing him sit at his table in the vendor room, talking about an incident, whatever he was on stage doing a play somewhere. I'd have to read his autobiography, Confessions of a Klingon Linebacker, available for sale on Amazon, and to see if the story's in there. But he's talking about being on a play. Somehow on stage they had a fire, like a sprinkler system pipe break, and for whatever reason he was naked and was trying to climb up and jam like a rag into this hose, and it's this cold water from this giant tank out of there, and he turns around and he's yelling in the middle of the vendor room, "It's shrinkage! It's shrinkage!" in his Martok voice. And I was sitting there going, "Oh, Jesus, this guy's great." Everybody's looking around like, what the hell is he talking about? It was fantastic. But listening to him talk and getting to talk to him was one of my highlights. The other one, honestly, was winning the raffle basket on Sunday. That was pretty cool.
Oh, I saw the loot on the Facebook, Instagram.
So one of the funniest things inside that thing that you didn't see looking at the basket until you tore everything out was in the bottom of it. There's a Horgon from Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Well, hot damn.
The Ryzen statue of virility. So I saw that in the bottom. I'm like, what the hell is that? I'm like, oh, that's a good thing I didn't see that on Sunday, because the jokes would have written themselves.
Well,
They
now
really would.
they just need to sit on the desk at all times. There you go.
It's up there.
Now we can see it, and those of us in the Sci-Fi Diner will become more viral, right?
Something. I
Does
don't
your
know.
wife know the significance of the Horgon, Dave?
Absolutely not. And she would look at me if I tried to explain it to her and roll her eyes and walk out the door.
Just put it in the bedroom. She doesn't need to know why it's there.
right. Why is this here?
Yeah. It's to ward off
It's a
evil
very
spirits.
important religious symbol
Yeah.
Yes.
But-
Religious.
But yeah, that was
for purposes.
yeah, purposes. But yeah, those were two of the the most notable highlights for me.
Yeah. Well,
I did get to my friend Craig came Sunday for the con, and he had this giant plastic Enterprise. It was a toy, but it was a very elaborate toy. I mean, the saucer section was basically the bridge, and it had little action figures in there. And he's like, I don't have any room for this in my house, and he said maybe I give it away or something. I said, well, Craig, maybe they do a lot of charity stuff here. Maybe they can auction it off or something. And so he was able to donate this thing to this charitable organization, the USS Sovereign, and they were very delighted and appreciative. It was a nice donation. It'll probably raise a few $100 and bring some money to charity. And he's like, a friend of his who had passed away gave him this and lots of other Star Trek memorabilia. And he's like, if this was a good idea, my friend would have been happy that this is going to be used to help somebody later.
Yeah, absolutely.
The problem is I've seen it now, and I have a year. If they bring it to Shore Leave next year to auction off or whatever, I'll have a year to figure out exactly where the hell I'd put it should I win it when I bid on the thing.
It's huge, folks.
It's huge.
It's ginormous.
Like, you can hang it from the ceiling. It's massive.
I mean, Dave, you mount it on top of your car or like on the hood, and then
he's thinking about it. He's thinking about it, actually.
Yeah.
You know what? You need to mount it on top of one of our school robots.
Ooh, that's a really good idea.
See, I said it the last time. I'll say it again. Damn it, Tyler! Now you got me thinking again. How can I mount that on my car?
So yeah, next year Shore Leave is going to be the second weekend of July, and they are back here again in Wyndham. So,
are they for sure?
Listening, you can. What was that?
Are they for sure?
Absolutely, it was
in the program.
It was in the email that I got sent.
Oh, okay.
That's good to know.
That's good to know. Very good to know.
So there we are.
What did you think of it? You were there for a day. You didn't chime in at all.
I didn't. No, it was. So I like the fact it was close. It was convenient. It was easy to get to, and I like the interaction with Greg Grunberg and Todd Stanwich and some other people that we got to interact, say hi to, and I like that. I didn't sit in any panels really. I guess maybe the one Discovery panel that we sat in on part. Loved the dealer's room. It was one of the first year. They had a lot of new vendors there, which was kind of cool. So I thought the venue was much nicer, and I liked the space. I liked the way some of those rooms for the panels were huge. Like, they could fit so many more people into those panels. I didn't hear what the numbers were, but I wonder if I asked Mike what the numbers ended up being, because they could at most have about 1,500 at the old hotel, but this hotel they thought they could probably get upwards toward, 2.5. So it'd be interesting to hear that. But I liked the venue overall. I didn't have any complaints about it, and I think the thing that I was most impressed with was the dealer's room. And I was not also impressed with Universal Idol, but I think it had more to do with just the first time doing it, the MC, and not so much the concept itself. So, yeah.
Fair.
So there you go. That's my thoughts on it. Let's move into talking a little bit about what dropped at Comic-Con. We got a ton of stuff, new stuff, and arguably some exciting stuff. So let's just roll down through the list here. First thing we got was a introduction that there's going to be another Fantastic Four film. What do we know about this Fantastic Four film?
Well, the big news about is the big news, I think, is who's playing Doctor Doom.
Yeah, but that's not in the Fantastic Four, is it?
He's not going to be in. Okay, Doctor Doom was the villain for Fantastic Four. That's true. That's
Or is he? I mean, I don't know.
I don't think it's clear based on the trailer and the information we got about whether or not to be in the Fantastic Four movie. He's obviously going to be present in the Avengers Doomsday movie, but
right, obviously
maybe they'll like hint at him in Fantastic Four. I mean, it's not clear who the antagonist is, right?
right.
The trailer is. Well, one thing is like I love the aesthetic. Did you guys notice that like 60s retro,
Right.
like very sort of fun look at things, that very optimistic, bright coloring, the font, the style of the Marvel Studios presentation. Like I just thought that was. It feels like the director is making his movie, which I think traditionally goes really well with these big tentpole films, the ones that are like, the director's making their movie. I'm thinking like Black Panther, for example, right? Like those are great. And it's the ones where you feel like the studio's just churning out another property where it's like, that was fine, but I didn't feel any soul in it. So just immediately on the look of it, I love it.
Yeah, I was listening to another like YouTuber, and I did hear that Marvel has had some changes in staff recently. So I think that there is going to be a change in like from their more recent stuff to what they're doing moving forward. So it's possible that the studio is kind of going to get out of the way of the directors and the creators and have less of their hands in the pie. Because I think we also found that on one of the panels when they were talking about Deep Space Nine, one of the reasons why it was so good was because the studio was like, this is gonna fail, we don't care, and just let them do whatever they wanted to do, and it worked. So I think when studios do stop trying to micromanage so darn much, you end up with a much better creative story that people actually like and enjoy, instead of just the same old crap that you almost feel like, is AI writing and producing and doing all this whole film? Because this is crap. And I'm not afraid to say that a lot of the stuff they've been churning out lately, it's been crap. But that's just my salty opinion.
Well, I mean, we're not far.
So we know that Pedro Pascal is playing Mr. Fantastic, and I think Galacticus is supposed to be actually the baddie in Fantastic Four First Steps, coming out next year.
Yes, that's Ralph Ineson's playing Galacticus, but John Malkovich is also attached to the film.
Really?
Yeah, at least he's okay. So this is IMDb, however accurate that is, which is not always accurate, but he is attached to the film, at least here. And so Joseph Quinn is playing Johnny Storm.
Yeah, very excited about that casting.
Yeah. And then Vanessa Kirby as Sue Storm.
Yeah, some of these people I don't know, so that.
So
but
Quinn,
that's fine. I mean,
Quinn, did you watch the last season of Stranger Things, Ryan?
I have not.
Oh man, you guys, I recommend it. Quinn plays this like, so Quinn's this like giant D&D nerd / metalhead, and he just steals the whole season, honestly. So that's him. Yeah, put a big mouth on it.
That's a departure.
Yeah, but I think there's a little bit of crazy, right, in both those characters, and a little bit of heart too, and a lot of youthfulness. So I was very excited about that.
I think it's a great casting based on what I know of the character Ben and what I saw in Stranger Things. I think they're all great castings from what I've seen, like what I've seen of these people.
I guess I look at it and say, okay, like Fantastic Four hasn't notably been, they haven't done great films, and what really needs to happen is not, and I really wouldn't fault in any of those points the casting, and it was, I think they just need a decent director that's going to with a good script and a good storyline that ties it into the greater universe, because that's what we kind of like these days. And I think we'll be. I think then, but I guess I'm a bit cautious with this one, despite the casting again looks incredible. But
So something to keep in mind with the last Fantastic Four movie that came out was that that was one of those. It's one of those movies that was made because the studio wanted to hold on to the IP. Right? They got to make a movie or a property every so many years. I know they did this with Spider-Man too, where it's like you gotta do it, or otherwise the rights revert back. So sometimes with something like that, they'll churn it out because they got to get it done. But I think with Marvel in this case, right, like they don't have to make a Fantastic Four movie. There's so many other things they could make, and they didn't need to acquire this property and do this with it if they didn't want to. So I think this is a choice, not mandatory, unlike the last Fantastic Four movie. I think the Amazing Spider-Man movie is another example of that, of just like having to create a movie because corporate demands a movie. One thing that, oh, sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say, like, yeah, that's my understanding. I also think like it can be difficult to write a ensemble film that's nice and tight, because like you have 4 characters that you have to introduce, all with their own motivations, their own character flaws, and each of them need like an overall arc throughout the movie that gets resolved. And who do you focus on? So plus I think a lot of screen time used to get eaten up just trying to introduce people to like how superheroes work, and now people can jump into a Marvel movie and they don't need as much exposition because they have the tropes down now in their brain, so they don't have to do quite as much work. Because Marvel has laid the groundwork, so we don't have to like give long explanations of how powers work. We're just like, yeah, they got powers. We don't care. I mean, when we're introduced to Spider-Man, they were just like, F this. Everyone has seen the origin story like 20 million times. Skip over it. And yeah, he got bit by a spider. We don't care. His uncle's dead. We don't care. Like, moving on with our lives. Which I loved when we got to Peter Parker in the Marvel Universe, because I was like, oh, thank God I don't have to sit through the same story again. So I think I wouldn't be surprised if Marvel doesn't rely a little on, we're not going to spend that much time giving explanations as to what happened or why we're here.
Instead, like, situate them in the conflict and the actual story so that we can like get moving with character
because we used to spend a lot of screen time on people's origin stories. I wouldn't even be surprised if Fantastic Four doesn't just exist and we're like thrown into, hey, this is they're already been transformed. They've already gotten, what was it? I forget their origin. Was it a space? It was like a space accident or something.
It's space rays. That's basically it.
Magic space rays.
Yeah.
Which
there we go.
None of our astronauts have come back with magic space ray powers. I'm very disappointed. Keep trying.
That's why we have to go back to the moon.
Oh, is that why? Okay.
Yeah.
That is.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, we have the. Oh, sorry.
Well, something that's interesting, though, if we're thinking about the plot and the way it's going to unfold, they added the subtitle of First Steps to it. So a deep cut here is that Richard and Sue have kids in the comics. Valeria and Franklin, who are like very superpowered and whatever. But it might be a movie about them having children, potentially. If like first steps, like kids take first steps, maybe that could be it. We know that like space travel is a part of this. The trailer is mostly them getting in a space shuttle and launching off. So maybe it's like first steps in space. I don't know, but there you could speculate a little bit about what it's going to be.
Yeah.
You know, if it is 1960s, do you think we're going to see anything with Peggy?
Oh, man, I love that character, but I feel like they just kind of, kicked her off. Plus, it seems like it's an alternate world.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we already have the multiverse, so why the heck not? Because, like, didn't she have her own show for a little bit?
It was good. We were just talking about this, Scott.
Yeah.
Peggy Carter, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. Honestly, I enjoyed it a lot. It was really good. And they brought her back in the What If series. She's kind of the central character of that. So she's around.
Yeah.
Well, then, I mean, why not have her involved in the 1960s? Because, like, if they were going to do any sort of, like, other Marvel tie-in, that she's it.
Yeah.
When you think about it, because Captain America's taking a snooze in the ice somewhere.
Yeah. True. Bucky's around, assassinating people.
Okay, there we go. So he's assassinating people. What's the Russian guy, the red guy? Is he around in the 60s?
The Red Guardian. These are all when we talk about Thunderbolts, we'll bring these guys.
Okay, sounds
that's
good.
True. Yeah, that's true.
Well, let's move on a little bit to. It wasn't the only Marvel thing that got dropped. We learned about Avengers, Secret Wars, and then Doomsday Destruction. Of course, the Avengers Doomsday. So let's talk about what we found out. I think the huge reveal of this, of course, was that Robert Downey Jr. was going to be back. Not going to be back, but it's going to be filling the role of Doctor Doom, and which of course has a connection to Iron Man. So what do we think about that? Is this a good? Did he need another paycheck, or is this a good connection to the franchise? I mean, where are we at with this whole thing?
I don't care.
Dave, I want to hear from you. We're quiet here. What's your thoughts on Robert Downey Jr. coming in as Doctor Doom?
Look, I love the guy, but for what 15 years now, you've been Tony Stark. They better have a damn good plan bringing this same actor back into this universe after his emotional, heroic death. And they're gonna have to. It's gonna have to be good, and it's gonna have to be sold really, really well. Because I've never liked. Has it ever happened before in a series where an actor has come back to play a different role in that same series?
That's a really good question.
Because I've been trying to think about that, and I can't. I can't think. I've seen roles recasted with different actors, but I've never seen an actor recycled.
Well, so I thought my understanding, limited understanding of Doctor Doom here, and I don't really understand. I haven't read the comics. I don't know much about it, but that Doctor Doom really is kind of an extension of Iron Man. Am I reading that right?
No.
Okay, good. I'm good. So,
I don't think he is.
So, Brian, I think, alluded to some of his origins, right? You said that. So Doctor Doom is he's basically like a rival of Reed Richards of the Fantastic Four, Pedro Pascal's character.
Okay.
The basics of him is that he is the autocratic ruler of the fictional country of Latveria. He is hyper intelligent, gifted technologically, physically. Later on, he has magic powers too. Basically like an evil Doctor Strange.
Gets.
Yeah, as one gets when one rules a fictional country. And he basically, his goal is world peace, but that the only way this can be achieved, he believes, is through his like superior might and intellect running things. There's actually a really cool there's a comic series called The Exiles where they pop into the future at one point and they see the future where Doom wins, and like it is a utopia. Like one of the irony is talked about in some comics is that like legitimately the only way for world peace to happen is for Doctor Doom to win, and he will be a benevolent ruler, but also completely autocratic, and the path to that will have a lot of death and destruction. So are you really willing to pay that price? But
Look,
sorry.
The world is a mess, and I just need to rule it. Okay, like
that's Doctor Doom's shtick. Yeah,
he and Dr. Horrible would get along great.
I mean, Dr. Horrible is basically just a nerdy Doctor Doom when you get down to it. So yeah, that's basically Doctor Doom's thing. He has his armor and stuff, which I think he's supposed to be scarred underneath it, but really it's just like it's a tool it's a means to an end, you know.
Right.
But he doesn't really have anything to do with Iron Man. He's not in the comics related to that at all.
Yeah. Okay.
You would think that they're going to have to address, like, every Avenger is going to recognize him as, so they're going to have to address that somehow, or if there's not a connection, they're going to either have to make a connection or the resemblances, or maybe he's from another universe. I don't know.
Well,
So-
it's not the 1960s, so I don't think these people are around yet. But then how do you retroactively say, hey, Iron Man, Tony, you look an awful lot like this other guy. I think your mom may have cheated. I'm just saying. Like,
Exactly where I was going. It's good.
Bulge up the fence. So I think this is
that
why,
would
like,
be funny.
he might not be in the Fantastic Four movie, right? Or if the Fantastic
I'm
Four,
not
like,
expecting him to be in the Fantastic Four.
Oh,
I think
I
it's
keep
only
forgetting.
it's only in the Avengers, and that's set. Like, these two Avenger films
That
are
looks- yeah.
after Infinity War. Like, this is in the future. This is a continuation of the Marvel franchise, bringing the Avengers back in, or those that are left that are going to bring back in. We assume we're going to see. Well, we'll see the new Captain America / Falcon.
Then Tony had lots of romantic tryst. We know this. It could be his son.
so something that Downey said in the announcement, he said, new mask, same task, which brings me back to what I think is actually the best Iron Man movie, which is not an Iron Man movie. And it's also the worst Avengers movie, which is Age of Ultron. Age of Ultron had like these seeds of something really interesting in it, which was Tony's need to protect and shield, and how that's also informed by a need for control, which they explore a little bit in Civil War. It's that Ultron is a suit of armor around the world, right? He's willing to do whatever it takes, it seems at first, to protect humanity from the threats that it faces. And so, like, crossing the line by making Ultron is an expression of that he's willing to break his word, do something unethical. He pressures Banner into doing it because he thinks it's the right thing to do. Now, he walks back from that, he pays the price, right? And he grows from that. What if, right, to use that term, he didn't? My theory would be that this is going to be an alternate universe, because we are still in the multiverse. This is essentially replacing Kang, right? Kang's gone because of Jonathan Majors and everything that went down with him. So they're pivoting to a Tony from another universe, another timeline, who didn't walk back from that part of himself and instead embrace the fact that he's the smartest, most talented man in the world. He's an arms manufacturer. He has the power to save the world. If only everyone would get out of his way. And that's very Doctor Doom, right? So I think that's the direction they're gonna go in.
That is most.
I mean, it's a multiverse.
Thing.
Anything could happen.
Yeah. For sure.
Miles, what are your thoughts on Doctor Doom?
I was gonna say, I'm fine with bringing Robert Downey Jr. back. The worst it's gonna get is good.
Good point.
So, I mean, your question about bringing an actor to play a different role, it's happened in some smaller projects like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. The guy who played Coulson when he legitimately got killed off, he played in the next season. He played this alien who was their nemesis, who took on the form of Coulson. So, so that has happened, but this is something totally different. They'll come up with a creative way to say why Tony Stark and Von Doom look exactly alike. Whether they'll figure something out to make it work. I'm not too worried. So I'm excited for it. I mean, Marvel needs a shot in the arm. The last several Marvel projects have been pretty
Garbage.
I will say this: that if they need a shot in the arm, they're getting it with Deadpool Wolverine. financially.
Well, yeah, that will
That
definitely help them.
that is an absolutely fun movie, and we won't spoil it here because some of you haven't seen it. But
You can't go wrong with those two actors. You just can't.
no, and it was. I saw it. Tyler and I saw it the opening night, and it was delicious. And I really want to go back and see it again because I think it's just that sort of movie. So. But yeah, so do we know much about Secret Wars or what's happening with that? It was announced that was coming down the pike, but I don't know that there was any major news coming.
Is that supposed to be a movie or a
that.
show?
I thought that was a movie, but maybe I'm wrong.
They might be right.
It's gonna be a movie. And it's in the comics. It's like it's a multiversal event. So this is all kind of leading up to it.
Okay.
What was Kang Dynasty is now Doomsday. So I think it's but Doom plays a central role in the Secret Wars in the comics. So
right. So he's going to be in.
Yeah, this is almost a duology. I think that we're.
Also, and I just looked it up. Fantastic Four is going to be in Secret Wars as well.
Yeah,
that's for tie.
Benedict Wong's going to be in.
Nice.
Eamon Vanelli, I guess Miss Marvel. It's rumored that she's going to be in.
Oh, cool. All right. Not a fan of Miss Marvel.
Not really.
That whole thing tanked.
Yeah, but
So
I did like the Marvels. I thought the Marvels. I know that didn't get a lot of love, but I did appreciate the movie.
I haven't seen it yet, but I liked the character. I would agree that the back half of that show did not go great, but there's some things. I think they can work with it.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on. We have some other things. Let's talk about Captain America: Brave New World. We had a recent trailer drop on that. The trailers look good. It feels like we're getting some classic Avenger style movie here. Like, what are we thinking as we saw it?
Harrison
What was
Ford's
that?
playing the president.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that ought to be good.
Yeah. Well, the president and Red Hulk.
Oh, he's playing Red Hulk.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
If you watch the second trailer, you can clearly see that like this is a CGI'd up, roided out Harrison Ford, just kind of guerrillaing around Hulk style, which I love. He's quoted. Harrison Ford was asked about the role. And he said, "Yeah, I just acted like an idiot for a lot of money. It's not the first time I've done it." It's like, yeah,
well, classic Harrison Ford.
Yeah, no respect for the role.
But I am excited to see the blend of the Falcon and Winter Soldier show. You saw the transition into Captain America, and I'm looking. He looks good in this role, and it'll be interesting to see how it blends together and how he carries the movie really as his own character, because he really hasn't had that opportunity. I mean,
it feels like they're going back to Winter Soldier, like Captain America: Winter Soldier. That movie, like the vibe is there.
That is the vibe, yeah.
And that is one of the best Marvel movies, in my opinion. And that's because it tells a good human story about our systems of government and our past. And if this can manage to be more than just a movie about superheroes punching each other, right? That's when it becomes something more, something better.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on that?
Did you see that they're introducing adamantium in it?
Yes, I heard that. So there's definitely a connection to the X-Men universe.
Yeah, this is the beginning of that for sure.
Right. They also have Giancarlo Esposito, who we interviewed, is going to be in it as Sidewinder.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah, doing the Serpent Society, which is such a deep cut. I can't even believe it. You guys got to look up the pictures of these people, like the comic pictures. Their outfits are insane. Like they're not going to wear them in the movie. I wish that they would, but yeah, they just look ridiculous.
Then Liv Tyler's going to be in it as well as Betty Ross.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
okay,
So-
cool.
Yeah, so we'll see. We'll see how it. I'm excited. I am excited. This is probably that's probably dropping first. It's early 2025, and I'm really excited about that movie. I'll probably see it in theaters. So, do we know much about the plot of the movie?
I mean, all I know is what I saw in the trailers. It feels like there's an assassination attempt on the president, and that kind of leads Captain America into like unraveling a conspiracy and within like conspiracies within conspiracies. And I guess like this resource of adamantium is at the center of global tension.
Okay. got it.
So yeah, that's kind of what's going on. I don't know anymore. I kind of want to know more. I'd like to walk into this and be surprised. You know?
Yeah, that would be nice. So 3 more things to talk about. We'll talk about them really quickly here. Star Trek Strange New Worlds. I know that we are very much fans of this. We had a first look from Paramount here. What was your thought about what's your thought about this? What are we looking forward to? Is this season 3 or season 4, right?
It's 3.
Season 3?
Yep.
Miles, why don't you take point on this? Like, what are you looking forward to? What did you like about this trailer? What hit you?
I mean, it looks like it's gonna be a fun episode of transforming some of the Enterprise senior officers as Vulcans. There really isn't much as far as where the show is going this season. So, I mean, I'm sure we'll see Captain Kirk again sometime, or Lieutenant Kirk, I should say. They left on a huge cliffhanger as far as them going against the Gorn. So we knew those people were going to survive, but some of those people got captured by the Gorn. So we know that they get rescued, but we don't know how that happens just yet. I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm sure it'll be good. I mean, it'll be. I guess we're not gonna get it till sometime next year, as far as because the whole writer strike and actor strike we had last year. Dave, you'll be happy. Lower Decks comes out this fall. They dropped the trailer for Lower Decks.
Yes. Yes. I'm so sad that that's going to be it for it. Love that show.
All good things must come to an end.
Unfortunately.
There we go.
And we get Scotty back in Strange New Worlds, too. We do see him there, which is great.
That's awesome.
Can I ask something about this? So does this confirm that Vulcans are just inherently racist?
No, they're just assholes.
Oh, that's what it is. Well, he's like 4.5 Vulcans to beam down. It just feels very like suddenly this is how he talks. I don't know.
But for a species that focuses and prides themselves in logic,
yeah,
there's nothing xenophobic or racist. It is just factually logical that we have to correct and make sure we are specific in saying it's 4.5 Vulcans.
We have to say it more than once.
Yes, because we have to be specific.
Have you ever spent a significant amount of time with some really autistic people?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, they're not concerned necessarily. Well, I shouldn't say they're not concerned about your feelings. It's not that they aren't concerned about your feelings. It's just that they don't realize that they're hurting your feelings as they're speaking, because they're just like, well, this is just how it is. You're not technically that thing, therefore, it's 4.5.
It's why I say some things the way I do, Tyler.
So,
I'm being precise and logical.
I mean, as someone who is dating someone on the spectrum, sometimes I'm just like, I just laugh because I think it's hysterical. But I do remind him that, if I was another kind of woman, I would be very upset right now. But I find this hysterical. But so
okay, all right.
Did you watch any of Enterprise when that was on? How they depicted the Vulcans? I mean, they were not the nicest people to deal with.
That's true. Yeah, that's a good point. Okay.
So they tried to, they made him a little more, I don't know, less asshole-ish.
Yeah, I mean, like Spock's father is a kind man, right? So I guess we get a lot of him when we look at it.
He's also an ambassador, so he knows how to talk to people.
Yeah, that's
fair
fair.
enough.
Well, it is logical to build relationships with people, and if that's the purpose of your task, then you're gonna have to maybe pay a little bit more attention to their feelings and emotion in order to build the bridges, because that is the task of an ambassador.
That's an excellent point.
It's arrogance built out of the knowledge that we are smarter. We think these things out. We are correct in our logical conclusions, and it's just that natural arrogance. That just flows out. It's asshole.
I mean, they say Vulcans lack emotion, and that's not true. They just they've had to learn how to suppress it, because if they didn't, they would wipe each other out. What they probably have not totally worked out is humility and just. Because they showed in a couple times with Spock, him around the Vulcan kids. The Vulcan kids were just they were just awful towards him. I mean, they kept reminding him that he was half human and did it in the most unkind ways possible. So,
I mean, if you're in a culture where the solution to overwhelming emotions is suppression, and then that's the value to instill, as someone who went through some of the gifted programs, they did not do a very good job of teaching us emotional intelligence. I don't know if Scott sees that as a teacher with the kids coming through the programs of the gifted.
So what I see from the gifted kids is that they don't think they need to do the work. So that if I have anything, these are the kids that should be leading or pointing, but these are the kids that are like, screw you, and I'm like, okay, I'll fail you, or you fail yourself, one of those things. So.
You want another?
I will say that they did not do a very good job of teaching emotional intelligence, and in an academic setting, one of the things that gets highly valued is your academic performance, and then your identity and your sense of self-worth often gets tied up in that. And oftentimes what happens with gifted kids is they do eventually start hitting those walls, and they never learn how to handle failure. They never learned how to handle having to try. So some of what you might be seeing, Scott, isn't that they don't think that they shouldn't have to do it. It's their defense mechanism of, I've now for the first time in my life encountered something hard, and I have this internal belief that says, if I should be smart enough to just get this, or I should just be smart enough to just be able to do it without having to try very hard. If I have to try very hard, then I'm obviously not smart, and therefore I deserve to fail. They won't tell you that, but that's what's going on internally for them on an emotional level. So going back to the Vulcans, if that's the kind of culture, we only suppress emotions, then that's going to be very immature attitudes and behaviors you're going to see. You're going to see the sense of arrogance coming out, the sense of superiority, because the person who is the most logical, the most intelligent, the most able to suppress their feelings and emotion is going to be the person with the highest status. So whether they realize it or not, that's the whole cycle they're in. And yes, I would.
Does that answer your simple question, Tyler?
I'd be happy to psychology experience.
I guess my only other comment is, first of all, I appreciate that explanation. The Vulcans are not racist, just assholes. So
emotionally immature assholes.
There we go.
That's often what assholes are. They're emotionally immature.
I was going to say, I think there's a connection there. But I think if nothing else, Miles, you mentioned it's not clear the direction of the show based on this clip. I'm kind of happy for that. One thing I love about Strange New Worlds is that it really, I remember coming home from school, from high school, right? And I'd turn on SciFi and there would be the original series and I'd watch some weird off the wall episode. And I don't have to have seen any other episode of the original series to enjoy that episode. And, you know, we've really leaned into meta plots and season long or series long plots. And I love that. I'm glad that we have that now. Once upon a time, you never got it, right? It was like X-Files and then nothing. But I love that Stranger Worlds is almost a reactionary response to that, right? Where it's like, no, every episode, we're going to tell a good story. Mm-hmm. And it's going to explore some aspect of, you know, life. And it doesn't have to be a end of the universe kind of situation. It can just be a story about people who happen to be in space. And that to me, that's like the heart of Star Trek, right? It's why we watch it. It's why it matters. And, you know, stuff like Discovery is great for what it is. Section 31, I'm sure, will be cool for what it is. But Stranger World captures that spirit. And I hope that this is just a one-off episode about Vulcans and how weird they are and Spock dealing with that again. And then they move on, right?
Yep.
I think that would be great.
Yeah, I think that's most likely what it'll be. And
yeah. So I think the only other thing that, Thunderbolts, we have a trailer for Thunderbolts. Did that drop?
I don't think so. There was a secret teaser. There's a teaser they screened there, but mostly it was just the cast there, which they did a pretty funny bit where, does anyone remember the name of the actor who played the sheriff in Stranger Things? He was also Hellboy.
Oh, yeah. And he was also in Black Widow. He was in Black Widow, too. He was
Red Guardian, too.
Yeah. Yes, yeah. So he's going to be playing Red Guardian in the movie. He shows up at the hall for the announcement of the movie in full outfit, in character, introducing himself, talking about like how excited, you know, that he's going to be leading a new superhero team. He turns around and there's the cast just in their regular clothes. He's like, wait, you guys didn't dress up? Just like having a breakdown there. And like, it was just, I love that guy.
That's great.
And I love that character, by the way, too. So.
That's good.
So, but we didn't see it. We really don't have an idea like what the movie is going to be about yet at this point.
You can go on YouTube and look up like people telling you what was in it, but yeah, we don't have the actual teaser or trailer.
And did you watch anyone watch the Rings of Power trailer that dropped out of there?
Yes.
Yes, I mean, we are going to get some clarification of who this Gandalf-like character is later this season.
Who could he be? What kind of a wizard?
So there is some. The best thing would be if it's one of the blue wizards. Like that would be like the best thing if they did that twist on us. They obviously are leading us on, and we seem to see the rallying of Middle Earth coming together to fight Sauron, which obviously needs to be there.
Yeah. The best thing would happen if they would just delete everything.
I
do not feel that way about Rings of Power. I feel that way more about Wheel of Time, and I like that one too.
Okay, so Wheel of Time. Both
you had to go there.
Could only be broken down and used as toilet paper at this point. That is my feelings on it.
Wow. So, Chrissy, like, how do you really feel about this?
I would rather listen to Faith of the Heart on repeat for 4 hours
get going,
than
Dave.
watch 10 more minutes of that shit.
Cue it up. Go ahead, Dave.
All right.
I can make this happen. Dave says.
I said if I had to make a choice, that's what I would pick.
I'm going to be honest. I thoroughly enjoyed Rings of Power, the first one, especially the story of Galadriel and Sauron. And then I the hardest part for me in the first season was getting past that Elrond was not played by Hugo Weaving. That was the worst part for me. Like, this clearly is Joffrey. Come on, you know. But
I mean, okay, that was also a terrible, terrible travesty. But like, really, girl boss Galadriel, that just sucked. I'm sorry.
So, all right, I'm not like a huge Rings of Power fan. I would definitely acknowledge that much like the beloved Wheel of Time, it is a deeply flawed series. But I will say the part of Rings of Power that I liked and wanted more of, and I wish that the writers had gone back and focused in on it, was the relationship between Galadriel and who was eventually revealed to be Sauron. There was this seductive, dark, tragic relationship there, born in trauma and pain and exile, really.
Well, let me introduce you to the world of book talk, because if you like that kind of a romance, do I have the apocalypse?
I know a little bit. I know a little bit about book talk, but to me, that was the heart. And when they finally got there in like the second to last episode, I was like, oh, right. Now I'm compelled. Like, now this is interesting.
Romance trope recycled.
Well, there's a reason that works.
It's shit.
Oh, God.
Chrissy, I'm just not getting it. How, like, your true feelings, you just need to be more upfront about it.
I will go on record saying the prequels are a better adaptation of whatever than whatever this nonsense is. Gosh.
So one thing that we get from the trailer is that
what I'm hearing you say is you wish Lucas wrote Rings of Powers, is what I'm hearing you say.
You know what? It would probably be better. I would take Galadriel being mad about sand over whatever I got.
No.
It was awful. It was awful. You have these beautiful 3-movie trilogies as an absolute masterpiece of adaptations of Lord of the Rings and Tolkien's writings. And then we had whatever that crap was, a poor excuse of The Hobbit, I'm not sure, but, studio grab. And then this. What is this? This is like... awful fan fiction. I'm sure I could find better fan fiction on the fan fiction sites, and we could have adapted that.
Well,
you're gonna make me go read what is that website? AO3, AOC? No, yeah, AO3. I'm in touch. I don't read fan fiction, but I will go find better fan fiction just to prove you all wrong.
I'm sure there's great stuff out there. I'm just saying those were the redeeming qualities in the series that I saw. And it seems like they're leaning into the seductive element, the ways in which Galadriel is compromised, right? Like she does wear the ring. She does. Right. She makes that choice. The elves make that choice. It's going to be a season about corruption and doing. Scott, your son is a character.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But,
so yeah.
But
I'm smoking Tyler's thing. He is.
Yes, he is. He is. All right. Well, very good. I think that's a good spot for us to kind of to wrap up the show. Anyways, we're running a bit long here, but good analysis of some of the trailers and some of the things that are coming down the pike is what we think of them, and so. I don't know much more to say about it. I think that's good. It's a good way to wrap up the show here. Any other thoughts about any of the trailers or anything we talked about tonight?
I'm cautiously optimistic we got some good stuff down the pike.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. And I believe with that, we will take it out. Miles, why don't you take us out of the show here?
All right. Till next time, good night and good luck.
All right. We'll see you.
Leave your tips on the table.
And go boldly.